We, ladies and gentlemen, are in an era where self-improvement has never been pushed in our faces harder. Everywhere you look and everywhere you scroll, there's people telling you that you need to stop wasting time, start exercising, quit video games, quit porn, eat healthier, and become more confident. Most people intuitively know that these changes will only benefit them, yet they still struggle to make even the slightest adjustments to their lives. Why is it so hard to change? And more importantly, why is it so hard to make a permanent change? What's the difference between people who quit an addiction forever and people stuck in a relapse cycle? These are all questions I've had since I started becoming more self-aware of my behavior. I came to the realization that setting an intention to change doesn't usually convert into long-term behavior. Studies show that people severely overestimate how disciplined and capable of change they actually are. Our natural inclination as human beings is to revert back to old tendencies and things that make us comfortable. With that in mind, it's important to understand that willpower and discipline alone are not enough to make long-lasting changes. While they are necessary, and I'll get into why and how you can sharpen them, it's even more crucial to have the right mindset that'll change the fight into at least an even playing field instead of an uphill battle. Rule number 1, the mindset for change. First and arguably most crucial step that skips right over people's heads is their actual mental state before attempting to change their lives. We all know that fundamentally a big part of our identity are the habits we form throughout our lives because they shape our future in a compounding way. But we never take the time to acknowledge how little free will and control we actually have over changing and controlling our habits. Most people think they can change by simply intending to change because it's a comfortable idea that makes us feel like we're in control. But if this was actually the case, everyone would change their lives overnight. The most important step is to realize that your temporary surges of motivation, intention, and willpower will not result in any meaningful or long-lasting changes. We need a change that is internal, one that is powerful enough to create real commitment until our brains make it an automatic habit. I want you to ask yourself, do you really want to change? If you sit with yourself for a few minutes and be completely honest, I'm willing to bet the overwhelming majority of you don't actually want to change. You just like the idea of changing because of external pressure placed upon you. For example, if you were a person who plays video games for 9 hours a day, smokes weed, and doesn't exercise, you've probably received enough backlash from the people around you or social media that you should probably change. But this doesn't mean that you necessarily want to deep down. I mean, why should you, right? Your current lifestyle feels good, it's pretty comfortable, and if you could do it for the rest of your life, you probably would. Okay, so let's say you've decided that even though you thought you wanted to change, you don't actually intrinsically want to. In that case, I'd like to ask you the following question. Do you want to change? Or in other words, do you wish you wanted to change? Most of you would say yes, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. Well, the easiest way to want to change is to focus on a reason to want to change. I know this sounds like very basic self-improvement advice, but it actually works if you do it correctly. Seriously, sit down right now, write down strong, compelling internal reasons that make you want to change your current lifestyle. These reasons have to be purely your own and not based on other people's expectations. This is actually a very scientifically powerful way to implement new habits and break old ones. Heroin addicts manage to not submit to strong cravings and withdrawal symptoms because of this internal conviction. This principle is called competing interest. It's when your desire for change is so strong that it overrides your desire to be stagnant and comfortable. Write down your reasons and remind yourself of them often. Rule number 2, how to form good habits. Okay, now we can get into the actual mechanics of forming good habits. As we've discussed earlier, intention and willpower are not enough alone to make long-lasting changes. If we want to set habits that eventually stick, that we can follow through with, and that don't fail us, we have to appeal to human nature. Your brain is wired to do things that it has already been doing, and that's easiest and most convenient based on your environment. Our brain recognizes things in our environment as cues to perform a specific action. For example, if you're a chronic fapper, you might notice that you're most susceptible to beating the shit out of your meat when you're alone in your room. So in the initial stages, it's best to avoid the environment that promotes this specific behavior as much as possible. The second thing is that you have to exercise a lot of self-discipline, especially in the early stages, until performing the habit becomes second nature and doesn't require much effort or thought. You might find that meditating is extremely difficult in the first 20 days and requires a lot of willpower, but eventually your brain will start to register the action as automatic. We want all of the good habits that we form to become automatic, just like brushing your teeth or sleeping. Rule number 3, how to break bad habits. Habits are almost always performed with little to no conscious intention. Because you've done them for so long, your brain goes on autopilot. When you drink a glass of water in the morning, you're not consciously thinking about filling the glass up with water, picking it up, and raising it to your mouth. This is why bad habits are so hard to break. It's like we enter a trance and become mindless robots with no self-awareness when we perform them. This is why breaking a bad habit requires a high level of presence. You want to reach a point when you're aware of the habit just as you're about to do it. This will snap you out of this hypnosis trance-like state and give you clarity on what you're about to do. This self-awareness muscle can actually be strengthened through mindfulness meditation. I won't go in depth on how you can do that in this video, but the idea is that by focusing on one particular thing like your breath and constantly redirecting your undivided attention to it, you train your mind to resist mindless thoughts and always be in an alert, present state. But admittedly, sometimes this really isn't enough to resist caving into a bad habit. Just because you're aware of it doesn't necessarily mean you'll stop, especially if the craving is really strong. This is why it's not enough to simply break a bad habit. You have to replace it with a productive activity. If you don't do this, your brain will try to slide the same or even another bad habit in the empty slot you just created. Cravings aren't permanent. Your brain is always changing what it wants. So if you're able to do something else and wait for the urge to die down, then you will have much more success quitting an addiction. Another really helpful concept I've discovered from a psychiatrist and YouTuber, Dr. Kanogia, is urge surfing. This is using your brain's own craving for dopamine to your advantage instead of letting it control you. Your brain is always craving something. It's always in a state of want. However, like I previously mentioned, it's never in the same state of want for a long time. This is because when you don't supply your brain with the dopamine it craves, it starts to get bored of craving it, causing it to eventually look for a different source of dopamine. So by simply observing your urge to perform a bad habit like drinking or smoking, if you focus on this urge for long enough and surf on the urge, as the term suggests, your brain will actually get bored of wanting to do that habit and will drift in another direction. This is where you can take control and give your brain the dopamine it wants with healthier activities. Alright guys, I hope this video helped. If you'd like to see more in-depth scripted videos about a problem that you'd like me to solve related to self-improvement or psychology or anything of the sort, please let me know. It's been your boy YBC2Cold. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.